Imagine you're standing in front of an enormous library, millions of books surround you, data, numbers, statistics, patterns, all waiting to be discovered. But here's one thing, without knowing what you're looking for, all that information is just noise. Every groundbreaking insight, every business decision that changed the game, every scientific discovery hidden in data, they all started the same way. They did not start with fancy algorithms, not with cutting edge software. They started with something much simpler and far more powerful. And that's a question. They all started with a question. Today, I'm discussing one of the most underrated skills in data analysis. It's not about spreadsheet proficiency, Python proficiency, or any analytical software proficiency. It's also not about knowing every statistical test, and it's definitely not about having the most expensive analytical software. It's all about the right question. You see, data speaks for itself. Data analysis is fundamentally a detective work, and every great detective starts with a question they need to answer. It has been said that the most successful data scientists are not necessarily the ones with the most technical skills. They're the ones who can identify the right problems to solve. They understand that asking the right question is often more important than having the perfect data set. Think about it this way. You could have terabytes of customer data, years of sales record, detailed demographic information, but if you don't know what question you're trying to answer, you're just swimming in an ocean without a destination. Let me give you a real world example. In year 2009, Google created Google Flu Trends, analyzing search queries to predict flu outbreaks. That sounds impressive. But here's what happened. They started with the wrong question. Instead of asking, can we use such data to complement the existing flu surveillance systems? They asked, can we replace traditional surveillance entirely? You know the result? The system dramatically overpredicted flu prevalence because they have not framed their questions properly. So right question matters. You may ask, what makes a good analytical question? Now let me break it down. Number one, a good question is specific. For example, instead of asking, why are sales down? You can ask, what factors contributed to the 15% decline in third quarter sales among customers aged between 25 to 34 in the Northeast region? The second question gives you direction. It tells you what data to collect, what variables to examine, and what success looks like. Be specific in your initial question so that you can dramatically reduce the time spent in exploratory wondering. Second, a good question is answerable with data. This might sound obvious, but you'll be surprised how often people ask questions that no amount of data can answer. Think about this. What will our sales be in year 2030? That's probably too far out for any meaningful prediction. Why do customers love our brand? What features do customers rate highest in our product reviews? That's another broad question. Should we enter the European market? That's a strategic question requiring judgment, but you could ask, what are the demographic and economic indicators in European markets similar to our successful North American presence? A good question aligns with actionable outcomes. Every analytical question should connect to a decision or action. If the answer to your question doesn't change what you do, then why are you asking it? You can ask yourself, if I find X, what will I do? If I find Y, what will I do differently? If the answer is nothing changes either way, you might as well rethink your question. So let me be practical. I want to give you a framework for developing powerful analytical question. I call it the 5 Ws plus how framework. The who questions help you understand your subjects. For example, who are our most valuable customers? Who is most likely to churn? Who benefits most from feature X? What questions will identify patterns and outcomes? For example, what factors predict project success? What changed between last quarter and this quarter? What products are frequently purchased together? The when questions will reveal timing and trends. When do customers typically upgrade? When is our website traffic highest? When did a particular pattern or trend begin? Where questions will locate insights in space or categories. An example is, where are we losing customers in the funnel? Where is our strongest market penetration? Where do errors occur most frequently? Why questions often require experimental design, not just observational data. The how question will explore mechanisms and quantities. How much will a 10% price increase affect demand? How do different marketing channels compare? How can we optimize our processes? So let me give you a professional tip. So in summary, stay broad with your questions, then narrow down. Begin with an exploratory question. Let the data guide you, then formulate more questions based on what you discover. This iterative approach emphasizes flexibility and discoverability. You don't need to have the perfect question immediately. Your question can evolve as you learn more from your data. Before I round up, let me tell you 3 common pitfalls to avoid. Number 1, if you're analyzing data hoping something interesting will appear without any guiding question, yes, exploration will have value, but analyzing data without a hypothesis will dramatically increase the risk of finding false patterns, seeing faces in the clouds, so to speak. Number 2, when you're excited about a new tool or technique, that makes you go looking for problems to apply it to. For example, something like we should use machine learning. Okay, but what question? The tool should serve the question, never the other way around. So as the saying goes, when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Pitfall number 3. Sometimes your initial questions may turn out to be the wrong one, or you discover your data can't answer it. That's okay. But know that good data analysis requires flexibility. Be willing to refine, be willing to reframe, or even completely change your question based on what you learn. So one of the things I want you to take away from this is that before you open your spreadsheet or any analytical software, before you write a line of code, before you create a dashboard, pause. Ask yourself, what question am I trying to answer? Spend some time reading the case study. The case study will give you an idea of the questions to frame for the data set. And write it down. Make it specific, make it answerable. Try to connect it to action, then and only then before you can dive into your data. Remember, data is just a raw material. It is the question that transforms the raw material into insight. The question is what transforms insight into action. The question is where every meaningful analysis begins. So without data, you are just another person. So as you present your insights, make sure to reference the data set. Use numbers, use percentages, use another form of statistics if you know it or if it's required. Because without the reference to the data set, you're just another person with opinion. Whatever you're arguing could just be another conspiracy theory. You must support the argument with answer from the question. Your question must be answered in the chart, in the graph, in any visual you're trying to present. Your question must be answered there. So if you frame a question and you answer something else in your chart or in your graph, you need to go back and make sure that your question and the graph matches, because it is the graph that is inside. The graph or the chart is inside that will answer the question you framed. Without data, You're just another person with an opinion. And without a question, data is just a bit of numbers on a screen. So in everything, start with a question. Let the question guide you. Let the questions evolve with you. And as you watch your numbers transform into insights, make sure that your insights and your graph and your charts and other visuals, make sure they are going in the same direction. Make sure they support each other. So in summary, every meaningful data analysis begins with a clear question. Good questions are specific, they're answerable, and they're actionable. Use the 5 W's plus how framework. Avoid solution thinking first. Be willing to refine your questions as you learn more from the data. That's it from me for now. I'll see you next time. Bye. Thank you. Thank you for